Hey everybody, we're ready for our next lesson right now, and we're going to be looking at a little bit different way of looking at our data. Rather than just looking for a middle, we're going to be looking at ways to divide up data into quarters. So I'm actually going to um, work through some notes that you can see um, if you go to the PDF. So I'm bringing them up here, and I want to just start with a quick question of, how do you cut? Let's say you have a board of wood and you're going to cut it into quarters. Well, you'd probably start by cutting it in half. All right, so here we cut it in half. Whoa, happened with that? Let's try that again. So we're cutting that in half. And then we would go on this half and we'd cut it in half. And then we'd come over to this half and we'd cut it in half. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. Okay. But I don't necessarily want to look at the pieces themselves. I want to focus more on how many ends would our boards have. We'd have one there. We'd have a second one here where we made that cut. We'd have a third one here. We'd have a fourth one here. And then, of course, the other end of the original board would be our fifth one right here. Okay. And what we're going to see as we look at data, we want to look at how to cut data into quarters. There are actually going to be 5 different values that we see divide our data into quarters. So I took some of the data that we collected the other day. I found 19 of your heights. Okay, so the smallest one, somebody was 40 inches tall. The tallest one was 72 inches tall, and we have all these different heights in the middle. Okay, so how are we going to cut data into quarters? Well, we're going to do it the same way we cut this board. First of all, we're going to cut it in half. All right, and we're going to cut it in half by finding the median. Okay, now I have 19 values down here, so that means I'm going to have 9 on either side, and then I'm going to have a middle one because there's an odd number. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right there is my median. And of course, I had 9 on this side. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 values on that side as well. Okay. So we found the median. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take each of those halves and cut it in half. So I want to highlight what we're doing here. I'm not going to include the 64 that is our median. I'm going to include all of these scores to the left. All right, and I'm going to find the median of those scores. So for right now, I'm ignoring everything else, and I'm just going to find the median of those scores. Well, as I said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those scores. So that means the fifth one is going to be the median of those scores. And you see here we have 4 scores below it. We have 4 scores above it. And this 61 is the median of the lower half or the bottom half. Okay, so again, we are finding a median, but just of this bottom half. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing up here on the top half. All right, so I'm just looking at these 9 scores now. And again, I'm going to look for the fifth one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our fifth one. And you can see I have 4 scores to the left. I have 4 scores or heights to the right. That's the median of the top half of the data. And now you'll see what I've got here is I've got 4 quarters. Okay. I've got 4 quarters, and just like our board, It's split up into 4 pieces, but as you can see, there are 5 different values that are actually significant here and make up kind of the ends of the board, if you will, the ends of the parts of data. Now, each of these values has a certain name, okay? And together, they're known as the 5-number summary. That's a term that you definitely want to know, the 5-number summary. And really, this is all this lesson is about, is how to find the 5-number summary for a set of data, okay? So first of all, this number 40 is the lowest value, and we call that the minimum, okay? Nothing new there, the minimum, okay? On the other end, the 72 is the highest value, and that, of course, is our maximum, all right? Again, nothing new there, okay? So then let's look at that 64 in the middle. The 64, okay, is actually what's known as the second quartile. All right. Now these values that we're talking about are known as the quartiles. Okay. The minimum you could call quartile 0. Nobody calls it that, but technically you could. The maximum you could call that quartile 4. It's the 4th. Again, no one calls it that. What you may sometimes see people call the median is that second quartile. All right, the second quartile right there is 64 is our median. And the cool thing about that is we know that that is going to be greater than 50% of the data. Okay, so whatever that value is, it's greater than 50% of the data. And that's something that's significant to recognize here. Notice when we divide this into quarters, we've actually divided it so that 25% of the data goes from 40 to 61. 25% of the data goes from 61 to 64. 25% of the data goes from 64 to 67. And then 25% of the data goes from 67 to 72. All right. So you can see here 64 is higher than this 50%. Okay. So that's our median. Then we had these other 2 values. The median of the bottom half is 61. Okay. And we call that the first quartile. You can abbreviate that Q sub 1, all right, Q sub 1. It's greater than 25% of the data, all right, but that is our Q sub 1. And then over here, the median of the top half of the data is 67. I'm going to write that down here. That is the third quartile. The third quartile of the data. Okay, it is greater than, if you count up these quarters, we have 1, 2, 3 quarters, that's 75%. The third quartile is greater than 75% of the data. Okay, now, one thing to keep in mind as you're finding these quartiles, to find the first quartile, recognize it's the middle of the lower half of the data. All right, or the median of all the data below the median of the whole data set. Okay, so here's the whole data set. Here's the median. I highlighted in yellow everything below it, and 61 is the median of that. Okay. To find Q3, the third quartile, it's the middle of the upper half, so it's the median of all the data above the median of the data set. Okay, like we just found. Okay. Now, one other value that is significant here is what's known as the interquartile range, or IQR. IQR is how we'll abbreviate it. This is the middle 50%. Okay, the middle 50%. If you look up here, that middle 50%, I'll highlight this in orange, is right here. And it's going from the 61 up to 67. Okay. So it's that middle 50%. The IQR in this case, then, we would find by taking Q3, sorry, I've got this backwards, Q3 minus Q1, okay? Q3 minus Q1. All right, so in our case, the third quartile was 67. So I write that down, 67 minus the first quartile, which is 61, and that would equal 6, okay? So my IQR is 6. Now that tells us a couple of different things. It's the range, it's how big of a spread there is from that 25% mark up to the 75% mark. It's also something that we'll use later on to help us identify what we call outliers. Okay, outliers are just really extreme values that there's something unusual about that makes them abnormal, and we may or may not then include them in our analysis. But we're going to use our IQR as a way to help us find what those values are. Okay, but again, that's going to be later. All right, now let's try this one more time. We're going to find the 5-number summary and the IQR. Here I have the data that you guys gave me for how many brothers and sisters you guys have. So I took 18 of those values. We have an only child down here, no brothers or sisters, up to 10 siblings. So that's our spread. So when I'm told to find a 5-number summary, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and list the things that I need. I need the minimum. I need the maximum. I need the first quartile, Q1. I need the third quartile, Q3. And then I also need the median. Okay. Now, let's start with the easy ones. The minimum, 0. The maximum, 10. All right, so 0 to 10. By the way, if I wanted the range of the whole data set, I do 10 minus 0 is 10. So the range of the whole set is 10. But here now I want the median. Okay, I've got to find the median before I can find the other 2 quartiles. And since there's 18, it's an even number. That means my median is going to be between the 9th and 10th. All right, remember you divide it by 2, it comes out evenly, so it's going to be between that and the 10th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So my median is right here. And remember, you take these 2 values on either side and you average them. Since they are the same value, my median equals 2. Okay. Now, this is significant, especially when you're identifying what the bottom half and the top half of the data are. When I'm looking at the bottom half, I look at all the data to the left of the median. Okay. Now, because the 2 that is our median is in between these 2 2's, I will include this as part of the bottom half. Okay, so since there are 18 total, there's 9 scores down here. All right, so that means my first quartile is going to be the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my Q1. All right, I'm going to label that there, Q1. All right, notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 values to the left, and there are 4 values to the right. So that's my median. Okay. Likewise, I'm going to do this on the right-hand side. So there are 9 scores over here. I'm going to identify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the 5th of those, and that is my Q3. Notice there's 4 on one side, 4 on the other. Okay, so my Q3 is 4. Okay. Finally, I need to know what the IQR is. IQR equals Q3 minus Q1. So that is 4 minus 1, which equals 3. Okay, and again, that represents our middle 50%. So that means that 50% of the students have between 1 and 4 siblings. Okay, 50% of the students will have between 1 and 4 students. And that means also 50% of our students have within 3 siblings of each other. Okay, within 3 siblings of the same number of siblings. So hopefully this makes sense. I've given you 3 problems. If you have to do these on paper, they're right down here. You can print out the notes or just look at the notes, and we have 3 different problems with different values of data. If you're doing this on the computer, I've put those into a Google form, and you can just enter your scores on that and get and see how you did right away. Okay, so hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and remember at 4 o'clock we'll be meeting live, and you can ask any questions you need, and I look forward to seeing you. All right. All right. Have a good day, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.